visionary fiction is all about transformation of consciousness.
And helps us reach and show what the eyes can't see, but the inner soul can comprehend.
It's a way to explore the lived experience of the spiritual life in a real way.
Allows people to step into the story.
And about our consciousness and awareness of what it is to be a human being.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all, to the Visionary Fiction Author Interview Series with your host, Aaron Yeagle. That would be me. Sponsored by the Visionary Fiction Alliance, whose mission is to, among other things, help readers discover, explore, and enjoy visionary fiction, and to be a place where readers can find visionary books and engage in discussion with the authors. This week's interview is with Branwen O'Shea. Did I get that right? Branwen seems to be a sort of a Dr. Dolittle to me, as her life has been chock full of critters, from opossums to skunks and cats to horses. Branwen has a strong desire to help people connect with themselves through nature. She obviously worked on a lot of healing modalities. And that kind of empathic life brought her into writing more. And her book, The Calling, Finding Humanity series, book 1, was recently released. And so I would like to tell you a little bit about that book. Humanity's Wake-Up Call, Answer It or Face Extinction, which I really love that. So the main character, basically humanity has been relegated to the subterranean havens on Earth as it's been consumed by snow and ice. And the main character, his sister has gotten a sickness, which leads him on a quest outside of the haven to help save her life. Welcome, Branwen.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I love doing these interviews. As I said in our little preamble, I sometimes forget to actually interview. I just have fun talking with the author. I always start off with our interviews with that question: what is visionary fiction?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think it can be interpreted so many different ways. And I mean, I used to think of it as more fiction that was uplifting, and then I found out that there was horror visionary fiction. I mean, I think it's much more, it's a much bigger genre than a lot of people think. Mm-hmm. But for me, there's kind of 3 parts that I think of the most. The main one is that for me, I see it as, it's a story that explores the states of consciousness in the soul and expanding consciousness, whether it's through looking at totally new situations or consciousness itself through meditation or past lives. It can be parapsychology exploration. It can be exploring mysticisms and the ancient wisdom traditions. I see it as a lot of different ways of getting at, to me, it is often about expanding the human experience and kind of looking at how we could potentially change, hopefully for the better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Visionary Fiction Alliance members, the board members, they took it upon themselves many years ago to make visionary fiction a much more known and understood genre. And I think it's a lot like some of the other genres, because in science fiction, you have hard science, you have soft science, and in fantasy, you have different kinds of fantasy. And visionary fiction is the same way. Visionary fiction, I think you hit upon it in your first sentence. It's uplifting. It's a spiritual upheaval in a positive way or an evolution that the characters get to or the world gets to. So in what way do you think The Calling really exemplifies visionary fiction?
Well, it explores humanity's tendency towards violence when they're in the worst possible situations, and also when they're in positive situations where, you know, things like competition is just a normal part of our lives and we don't even really think about it. And so with The Calling, I also, my day job is as a therapist with teens. And a lot of the teens at the time, I actually started this book about 12 years ago, so it's been a long time in the making. And at that time, dystopian literature was huge. And you'd go to the movie theater and it would be just trailer after trailer of the end of the world, basically. And a lot of the teens would say, you know, between climate change, between wars, I just can't even fathom that there's a future for humanity. I don't want to do school. I don't want to, you know, better myself because it just feels like we're all doomed. And it was kind of like an existential depression that I was seeing in a lot of the kids I worked with. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to write something that would fit with what was popular at the time, that seemed sort of dystopian, but would give a completely different uplifting view of humanity. And I had no idea how to do that. I had always wanted to write, but I'd never written a novel. And I basically started meditating on it and asking for some sort of guidance. And one night I had a series of dreams where Rana, one of the alien star beings in the series, came to me, and she basically told me this whole story about humanity's future. And it was kind of like an instant download of the whole series.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the next morning I got up and was talking about it at breakfast with my family, and they're like, that sounds like a book. And I was like, yeah, it kind of does. And so I started, you know, just jotting notes. And as I did that, the different characters all came forward and introduced themselves and basically talked about how each of them represented different aspects of humanity and how those particular characteristics or characters had different things they needed to overcome to help themselves progress. And so each character has their own sort of symbolism. And that's how it ended up. I didn't even know what multiple point of view was. It was not popular. This is before like Six of Crows and all the other, you know, really popular multiple point of view books came out. So it was kind of by luck that I just kind of managed to do it. But like I said, it took 12 years. So it was a big learning curve. Yeah.
So seeing as how it took you 12 years, when you finally received it back from the editor with your little gold star, what did that feel like, knowing that it was done?
Well, it was very weird because these characters have lived in my head and been part of like family discussions for all those years. My kids grew up like talking about, yo, how would Blue handle this? How would Rana handle it? You know, it was a part of our little private culture, and to have it out there where other people can read and discuss it has been amazing. I mean, the first time someone made a joke about one of my characters on Twitter and tagged me, I was just like, wow, this is so amazing.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and I've gushed about this before. I'm going to gush again. The cover. I mean,
yeah, I have it. I can show it.
It's so well done. Yes. Oh, look at that. I love that cover.
There we go.
How many pages is it? Looks kind of thick.
It is the paperback. Let's see if we take out all the stuff at the end. It is 490 pages.
Oh, that's not bad.
So, yeah.
It's a good journey. Well, and of course, it really isn't over, right? This is
No.
This is the first book of a series. Now, are we going to have to wait 12 years for the next one?
No, the next one's coming out in January.
Oh, wow.
And actually, the second and third book were originally one book, and it just came out to be like 750 pages. So I had to split it and fix the arcs. And so the second book will come out in January of 2022. And then I'm hoping that the end of 22 or the beginning of 23, book 3 will come out. So yeah, it's hard to line up all the editors with my schedule when you're working full time. It's a lot, but yeah, no, it's not going to be as long, because now that I know what I'm doing and I've learned so much, it will go much smoother.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I have a short story, The Ties That Bind, that's coming out, that happens between books 1 and 2, and that will be coming out this summer.
Okay.
And that is completely about the star beings and a particular situation with energetic cords that happens to one of the main characters, Eka. So.
Yeah, that's I like seeing that. Those little pieces in between that really don't fit in a book, but an author will publish as a separate either short story or a compilation, or maybe they include it as a freebie on their website to build their email list. I think those make things much easier for a person to get into a book. It's their introduction. I don't know if I want to deal with learning all about this and investing in the paperback or even the Kindle. And then you can give them a short story and they're like, okay, I really like these characters. I'm going to go get the book.
Yeah, it doesn't completely explain all the world building. There is an assumption that people have read the first book. You
Right.
could read it by itself, but there will be a certain number of things that might be a little confusing about star being culture. Yeah.
So what have you found is the most difficult part of the business of writing, of getting it sold, marketing it? What have you done there?
I think the hardest part is there's so many books published every day that it's very hard to get yours noticed. So I've done a lot of book blog tours, and I'm working on building ARC teams, advanced reader copies. I did that for The Calling. The second book, The Chasm, I'm working on developing a larger team for that, so I can get more reviews when it comes out. I don't think people realize how important reviews are for books. It really helps people find your books when it has larger number of reviews, especially on Amazon. So I've also been, doing interviews like this, and I'd like to do more in-person talks and stuff, but it's been hard with COVID.
Yeah.
But I am working with a couple libraries, and hopefully some stuff will be happening sooner than later.
Well, I think, now that things seem to be loosening up as far as rules are concerned, with regard to COVID, you can still have a decent crowd and have space, not everybody shoulder to shoulder, and still accomplish the job of selling or promoting your work.
Yes.
Now, do you have a book trailer for this? I didn't find one.
No, I have got one in the progress, but it's I'm working on it with my teens, so it's it's kind of like when we all have time, we work on it. But yeah, so
I usually do a book trailer for every single book, but since I started the fiction part of my publishing business, I find it very difficult to do fiction trailers, and I just don't want it to be, picture of the book and, some text and some music. I mean, I want to create a little short film of, but it's really hard to do.
It is, especially with speculative, when you're, unless you have a lot of experience doing special effects, trying to get the world building is tricky. Yeah. So, but I have gotten some great character art drawn, and my son is a composer, and he's composed an amazing piece of music to go along with it. So we're trying to work on, getting some things together eventually. So to all of you watching, head on over to branwenoshea.com, where you can get information about her book, and you can see that amazing artwork. And be careful of the commander. And I'll have that information at the end screen anyway. So what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge as you drive toward the book 2 and book 3? As a writer or as marketing? I mean, there's so many different aspects, or just spiritually. I mean, just the process of writing a book can be very.
Well, I mean, if you're already into editing for 2 and working on scheduling the editing for 3, not really the writer's journey. It's going to be more your journey as an author with the book in the marketing sense. Because, I've seen authors start out really gangbusters and to peter out pretty fast, especially if there's not a lot of reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tricky part for this series is how many genres it could fit in potentially. It's definitely visionary fiction. It's definitely post-apocalyptic sci-fi. Some people that don't really experience telepathy or anything like that, that sees that more as magic, might consider it more science fantasy. There are some, I don't want to give things away, but there are some things that happen later in the series that are based on stories of things that ancient yogis and different wisdom traditions achieved, that people may see as more fantasy rather than science fiction, but it is definitely got that technology piece as well. So it's tricky to know sometimes how to market it other than people that are interested in exploring the general issues and themes that it covers. So I think the challenge will probably be really connecting with the readers that connect with the story and finding them and building that group.
Now, you know that trick about contacting Amazon and getting 10 additional categories, right?
Yes.
It's very beneficial. I've been working on that, and it's with different books. They all have the same issue, especially in the visionary fiction realm. Is where is the perfect audience? We haven't gotten to the point where we could say visionary fiction and everything else is underneath it, and people understand. So that I think that's the biggest challenge for an author of visionary fiction is finding that core audience. And like you said, maybe it's more about not an audience based on genre, but an audience based on the story, the character, the world, and getting that
people
out.
That are seeking, I think, is seeking a different way or something. They're just not satisfied with the way things are going right now. I think those are the people that will enjoy this series a lot. But that's kind of a nebulous group to look for. So.
Yeah, it's a challenge, I think. So, all right. Well, The Calling, Branwen O'Shea is out now. Head right on over to Amazon and purchase your copy, can they purchase from your website?
There's a link to Amazon, but it's also available at Barnes & Noble and most of the other sites as well. So yeah. And you can also order it at independent bookstores. That's all set up. If they don't have it, you can order it through that. So yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I would like to urge all of you to go support Branwen, sign up for her email so that you can get information of the forthcoming short story and books 2 and 3. And grab a copy of The Calling. If that cover doesn't urge you to buy it, I don't know what else will. So
you should see the cover for book 2. It's amazing. Yeah, it's very exciting. So
you're gonna have to give me a sneak peek. All right. So go on, support visionary fiction, support Branwen, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know when I post a new author interview. Branwen, thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to talk to you and learn more about your life and your book.
You.
I wish you great success.
Thank you. You too. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.